He walked in wearing nothing but silence and medals on his chest. A 76-year-old man, wrinkled but proud, took a seat at the corner of the diner, his gaze holding decades of war, loss, and sacrifice. The world had changed, but his dignity hadn't. Then, a biker with flames on his jacket and rage in his fist walked up, and in a single slap, disrespected not just a man, but an entire nation's honor. What no one in that diner expected was what happened 11 minutes later, when the doors swung open, boots stomped in, and justice didn't come quietly, it came with the entire army. Stay with me, because this isn't just about one slap. It's about legacy, sacrifice, and a son who proved that heroes never stand alone. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, share with someone who needs hope today. Subscribe our channel Kindness Talks for more real-life inspired emotional stories. It was a quiet Tuesday morning at Miller's Diner, just outside a small town in Tennessee. The regulars sat in their booths, sipping coffee and talking about little things like the weather, the price of gas, and high school football. Then the door chimed. Everyone looked up. There he was, George Miller, a 76-year-old war veteran, wearing his faded brown coat and his Korean war cap, with 3 purple hearts pinned on the lapel. He had been coming to that diner every Tuesday for 12 years. No one knew where he lived or who checked on him, but he never missed a Tuesday. The waitress, Jenny, in her late 30s and pregnant, rushed to greet him with a smile. "Morning, Sergeant Miller," she said warmly. "Your usual?" He nodded gently. "Coffee, black, and the freedom toast." Everyone chuckled. That's what he always called it, French toast. Freedom toast. A group of bikers had pulled up minutes earlier, 5 of them, loud, rough, beer-smelling, and full of tattoos. The leader, a tall man with a scar across his cheek and a leather vest with flames, looked irritated that people paid attention to the old man. "Why the hell's everyone so interested in some wrinkled-up museum piece?" the biker grunted. The air shifted. People looked down. Nobody wanted a fight. Not in the diner. But Sergeant Miller didn't flinch. He raised his head slowly and said, "That museum piece fought so your drunk mouth could still run." Silence. The biker stood up, walked across the floor with boots like thunder, and before anyone could stop him, he slapped Sergeant Miller across the face hard. Gasps echoed. The cap fell from George's head. Jenny screamed. An elderly couple stood up in horror. Blood formed at the corner of George's mouth. Still, he didn't raise a hand. He just sat there, blinking through the pain. The biker laughed. "You're nothing now, old man." But George reached down slowly, picked up his cap, and placed it gently back on his head. He whispered, "I've faced tanks. You think your hand scares me?" Someone in the back called 911, but no one expected what happened next. 11 minutes later, the diner door burst open with a loud thud, and in came Major Aaron Miller in full military uniform, flanked by 2 officers and a line of soldiers and casuals. The biker turned pale. Everyone froze. Aaron didn't shout. He walked straight to his father, knelt beside him, and looked at the bruise on his cheek. Then, with a slow, trembling voice he said, "Who did this to my father?" The diner was dead silent. Sergeant Miller's eyes didn't move. He simply looked toward the biker, who had now backed into the corner, suddenly remembering every mistake he'd ever made in his life. Aaron stood up, taller than the room itself. "You just laid a hand on a soldier who bled for this country, and also my father. You don't know what you've done." Outside, a military Humvee had pulled up. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't theater. This was honor about to respond. The biker tried to play it cool. "What's this? You bringing an army over a slap?" He smirked, but his voice cracked. Aaron turned, stepped forward, and calmly pulled something from his coat pocket, a framed photo. It showed Sergeant George Miller at 28, standing with his young wife and toddler son in front of a tank. "He gave up everything for this country," Aaron said, voice steady but cracking beneath the surface. "He buried friends overseas, came home to empty parades, worked 3 jobs, and still tucked me in every night with a story of courage. And today, on the soil he bled for, you humiliated him." The room didn't blink. No one moved. Then Aaron pointed to the soldiers who had entered with him. This is Charlie Unit, men and women trained by my father in ROTC before he retired. We came today for a planned Veterans Day tribute. He turned to the diner owner, but now we're here for something more sacred. We're here to remind everyone what respect looks like. The biker tried to escape, but two off-duty officers in uniform stepped forward and held him back. Aaron didn't touch him. He didn't need to. Instead, he turned to Jenny, who still stood shocked by the counter. "Do you have a microphone?" She nodded and brought out the old karaoke mic they used on weekends. Aaron took it, faced the crowd, and spoke. "Some people forget the price of freedom. Some people think wrinkles mean weakness, that silence means surrender. But I want everyone to remember this. You can't slap a flag and expect it not to wave back." The soldiers saluted in unison. Then, in an unexpected moment of beauty, one of the female soldiers stepped forward and began to sing the national anthem, softly, slowly, powerfully. Tears welled up in the eyes of nearly everyone in that diner, even those who hadn't understood why the room felt so heavy moments ago. George sat there quietly, hand over heart, a single tear sliding down the same cheek that had been slapped. But now, he didn't look old. He looked like the rock of a nation. The biker was arrested not just for assault, but for hate crime enhancement charges once it was found he had a long history of abusing veterans. Later, Aaron asked his father, "Why didn't you hit him back?" George smiled weakly and said, "Because my strength was never in my fists, it's in what I've stood for my whole life." The story went viral. News stations showed up. Donations poured into veteran charities. And Miller's Diner became known as the place where freedom sat down. They say a single slap can cause pain, but sometimes it can awaken a nation. One old man's dignity, one son's honor, and a diner full of strangers who remembered that silence in the face of injustice is the loudest cowardice. In that moment, America didn't just stand up, it saluted. Because heroes may age, but they never fade.